The date today is May 4th, 2014. I just got done creating a vlog for today, and I am currently uploading it onto my blog right now. It's a vlog that's uploading to YouTube right now. And I decided I'm going to make a second one for today because I started discussing a little bit on that vlog about how sting operatives coordinate their harassments and their attacks and so on their targets. And I thought maybe it would be a good idea for me to elaborate a little bit more on that, just so that people can know and have a better understanding of how and why they do it. I was discussing on that vlog that I am currently surrounded by sting operatives, some of whom are in law enforcement, one of whom is a retired officer, and the rest of them are civilian operatives that are buddies / girlfriends / relatives to law enforcement. And they coordinate their attacks and their harassments and so on and so forth in a specified manner of which they repeat over and over and over again. And they do it specifically for the purpose of terrorizing and harassing their target. And at the same time, it's done in such a way where their target cannot prove the harassment. Now, sting operatives are renting an apartment right next door to me right here. Sting operatives are renting an apartment directly below me right now. And sting operatives have that apartment right next door to me on the other side of that wall. Over there. So I'm essentially surrounded by sting operatives. They use terrorizing tactics, which is meant to terrorize their targets. They will intentionally use a noise campaign, and it's not an extremely super loud noise campaign, but it's loud enough for you to hear it. And here's how you know it's a coordinated attack compared to just ordinary noises that, ordinary neighbors might make. Here's how you can tell the difference. Of course, when you live in an apartment building, you're going to hear, when you're surrounded by neighbors that rent apartments around you, from time to time, you will just normally hear normal odd noises or whatnot from neighbors and whatnot, which that's perfectly normal, expected, not unusual. Okay, sting operatives, their attacks are coordinated. And when you're targeted by a sting operation, you get surrounded by them. That means they use their police powers to acquire all the apartments surrounding yours, and they fill those apartments with either undercover officers or civilian operatives or a combination thereof. It's usually a combination thereof, more often than not. And what they'll do to terrorize their target, they don't always do this. They do this only when their target is aware of them. When their target becomes aware of their presence, that's when they use this terrorizing tactic. Okay? If they think you don't know, well, then they won't do it. All right. If they think you're unaware of their operations, then they won't do it. But if they think you are aware of it, well, then they generally will use this tactic to terrorize their target. Okay. They'll make a slamming noise, they'll slam the door, this apartment next door here will slam their door, and they'll do it 3 times in a row within 60 seconds. And then immediately after they're done, the people down below will do the same damn thing, and they'll slam their door 2 to 3 times. And then the apartment over here will make a different noise. Usually a tap or a rap on the wall, just one loud, one loud noise like that, something like that. But they do it on the wall, not on a table. And then about a minute later, they'll repeat it. and they'll slam the door 2 to 3 times next door, and then right after that, they do the same damn thing down below. And then there'll be another rap kind of a noise. Now, I could sit here and actually probably record that noises with this cheap-ass cell phone that I'm making this vlog with, but recording their noises doesn't prove that it's a coordinated attack, because how would anybody that's listening to this vlog, how would you know where the noise is coming from? See, you wouldn't. You would hear the noises, but you can't tell if it's coming from over here or down below or from next door over there. You can't tell where the noises are coming from. But see, I'm inside this apartment live right now, and I can tell where the noise is coming from. Okay? Now, see, they're aware of this fact. So they know damn well they can terrorize me with a noise campaign that's usually quite loud and brief and coordinated. And they do this intentionally to their targets for the purpose of terrorizing them and to instill fear into their target and to make it known to their target that their target's surrounded by them. They want to terrorize and instill fear in their targets, okay? And this is why they use this type of an attack. And it's a type of an attack you cannot prove. Even if you record it with a video recording and an audio recording, it's impossible to prove, short of having actual live witnesses that are willing to testify that he also hear the attack. So it's essentially my word versus all of their words. And of course, they'll fucking smirk and lie and, you know. See, this is why they love that tactic. They love, law enforcement loves using a harassment tactic that you can't prove. You know, I can probably record their sounds, but it wouldn't prove they're doing it. See, that's why, you know, I could get the sound, the noises they make recorded, but it doesn't prove the direction from where it's coming from. But because I'm physically in this room, I know where the direction of the sound is coming from, and it's a coordinated attack. You know, because the noise will come from the apartment next door, and then immediately after that, it comes from the apartment down below, and then there'll be a loud rap from that apartment next door, and then a minute later, they repeat the process. They'll repeat it. So the noise attack that they use is designed to intentionally make it known to their target that they're surrounded by people that have it out for them and are watching everything they do. And they do it because they want to terrorize their victims inside their very own homes. They want their victims' homes to be a place of terror, not a place of comfort. They don't want their targets to be on edge and nervous and scared and panicky, and they're actually hoping for a retaliation. They would love it if I retaliated. You know, because if I went, in order to retaliate, I would have to go out side and retaliate. If I retaliated with the same type of noise, well, what would they do? They would just file formal complaints against me, of which the apartment manager would be on their side since she's buddy with law enforcement here in Portland, Oregon. And, you know, it's all their words versus my word. And I have no way to prove this noise campaign. And they already know it. You know, I could actually record the noises they make, but it doesn't prove that the noise is occurring from multiple apartments, relatively all at the same time. See, that's why they do that. It's an attack that is designed where the lone target that they're terrorizing, that they have surrounded, they will recognize it. Their targets will recognize it as a coordinated attack. Of course, nobody else is a witness to it. Nobody else is aware of it. And if you try to explain it to other people, they'll think you're wacko. And of course, that's one of the reasons why that's another one of the reasons why law enforcement loves using these harassment tactics. And there's one more type of sound attack campaign that they use, that sting operatives use, to terrorize their target. This is how they make it known to you that they have you under video surveillance inside your home. Now, you've noticed how I've just described a sound attack that they'll use. Now, it's like I said, it's an attack that's designed to be a nuisance, but it's designed to make it known that they intentionally make it known as a coordinated attack. Okay? That's intentional on their part, and of course, you can't prove it. You can witness it, but you can't prove it. Okay? Well, here's how they make it known that they have you under illegal video surveillance on the inside of your home. If I go to the bathroom, let's say I'm going to go to the bathroom here, and I'll go into the bathroom here, and let's say I'm in here using the bathroom. Let me shut this real quick there. Let's say I'm in here using the bathroom or whatnot, and while I'm using the commode here, person that's in the apartment next door here will usually sit down on their commode at the same damn time, and it causes their body weight causes the floor to vibrate. In other words, you can feel the vibration on the floor that somebody's walking into the bathroom, and they will usually flush the toilet while I'm sitting on this. And the people that are directly below me will usually tap their ceiling, which is my bathroom floor. They'll tap the ceiling like once or twice with like a broom handle or some damn thing or another. I don't know. I don't know what they're using, but they'll take something. They'll take something. They're directly below me. They'll take a broom or a mop handle. I don't know, and they'll tap their ceiling. And of course, I'm sitting here at the commode, and not only do I hear the noise, I can feel the vibration on my floor. Okay. So that's their way of making it known. That's their way of making it known that they can see you inside your apartment, and they want you to know. And they're using a sound harassment routine to make it known. Now, if you are inside your own home, or inside your apartment, and you're being subjected to these type of noises, and that the harassment follows you from your living room, and it follows you into your bathroom, and then when you leave your bathroom and you go back into the living room, and then it starts back up again out here, that's their way of intentionally making it known you are surrounded by sting operatives. They can see you inside your apartment. They intentionally want you to know they're sting operatives. They are intentionally making it known to you that you're under illegal video surveillance, and it's their way of terrorizing their victims and their targets. And they want their targets to feel, fear, and have, to instill fear in their victims. It's a harassment campaign where they're literally paid by local authorities. Yes, local authorities. Local authorities to do this to people. They're usually people in law enforcement and buddies and relatives and girlfriends of people in law enforcement that do this to people. And they're paid in cash to do this shit to people. And they usually get high-paying jobs. They're taken care of by the fascist government takes care of their fascist buddies and their fascist relatives and their fascist girlfriends. Okay? People that do this shit to people for law enforcement, they usually get lots of money for this kind of crap to target people this way. They get free houses, they get high-paying jobs, and they don't give a shit. And it's sport to them. It's literally sport to them. They enjoy terrorizing people. They enjoy taunting people. I mean, you try to report crimes online that law enforcement do, and you'll be constantly trolled and harassed and taunted and by your government, and by people that are relatives to people in government, and by their girlfriends and their buddies and their relatives and so on and so forth. You know, they don't give a shit. Now, I don't know if you just heard that. There was a tap noise. They just made a tap noise. Next door over there. They just made a tap noise. And these kind of noises go on and off all damn day long. Here, I just recorded one of their noises. Now, I can't, I don't know if this picked it up or not. I don't know if this cheap-ass cell phone picked up that noise. They just made a rap noise from that apartment over there. Of course, I'm inside this apartment, so I can tell where the noise came from. People that listen to this video recording obviously cannot tell where the noise comes from. But I'm inside the apartment, so I can. Like I said, he usually does the tap noise. And ironically, I was just describing, he does the tap noise. He's the one that does. It's the people next door here that usually do the door slamming, and the people down below do the door slamming, and they even tap the ceiling from time to time. So, but it's usually a coordinated attack. They're not doing the door slamming shit right now, but they usually when they do the door slamming, it'll be like 2 to 3 quite loud door slams, all within a 60-second time frame. And the people down below usually do the same damn thing around the same fucking time. So it's like I said, it's their way of harassing. It's their way of harassing their target with a sound campaign. It's designed to keep you on edge. It's designed to piss you off. It's designed to make you angry or to be afraid. Either way, you never feel comfortable at home. It's a way of making you not feel comfortable. You can't feel comfortable at home when you're surrounded by people that are deliberately and intentionally harassing and terrorizing you. You know that you can't feel comfortable in your own home. And they want it that way. And they do want to actually force their targets, the people they terrorize this way, they want their targets to retaliate, okay? So don't think retaliating is something that they fear. Although I will tell you, here's what they do fear. They have lives they want to keep. That they fear. I guarantee you that. I guarantee you that. They have lives they want to keep. Okay? So keep that in mind if you ever get terrorized by a bunch of organized sting operatives that want to use a terror campaign, you know, to make your life miserable or to terrorize you. Just remember that. They have lives they want to keep. Don't ever forget that. Because that they do worry about. That's what they do worry about. But they actually count on retaliation. I mean, if I went out there and knocked on their door and verbally complained, they would record me doing that, and they would deliberately label me wacko for their video surveillance. See? So any kind of retaliation, even if you just verbally complain, they'll get that complaint on video, and then they'll label you wacko on video. So on their video, they can make you look bad. And see, your complaint will not be recognized. It will not be acknowledged. They will not act on your complaint. And they'll just use your complaint to make you look bad. So if you try to retaliate by giving them the same thing they give you by using noise campaign, well then they will complain about you, and since it's a sting operation that you're surrounded by, they will all work together on their complaint and all gang up on you, and you will have no believability to other people, and they will be believed because of sheer numbers. See? So they count on retaliation. They don't care if their target knows. And they just don't care. What they really want is for you to get pissed off and charge. Here's what they really want. They want you to get pissed off, charge out the door, and start yelling and screaming at them. They would love that, because now you look like a crazy, dangerous person on their video surveillance, and you can't prove they're doing anything to you. See? See? That's why they count on that. So, they intentionally use a terror campaign in a manner that is near impossible to prove, short of having multiple people in your apartment that are willing to testify that they're making that noise campaign. And guess what? If you got several of your friends in your apartment, guess what? These sting operatives will not use that attack on you while your people that are on your side are in your apartment. They'll do it when you're alone, so that you can't prove it. And you know, this is why it's near impossible to prove this type of an attack. It's a harassment attack, plus it's a terrorizing attack on their part, because you do not, you know, where are you supposed to go where you feel the most comfortable and the most safe in the entire world? Why isn't home supposed to be the most comfortable and safest place to be, to relax and wind down? Isn't it? That's where they target you, is right at your own home. They don't want you to feel comfortable in your own home. They want you to feel terrified and terrorized, and they want to constantly put their targets on edge and make them fear for their safety and make them paranoid and shit like that, and to just make everyday life a living hell. And these people enjoy. Now, you need to understand a little bit about sting operatives' mindsets. They're dicks. They're assholes. Think of the worst trolls you've ever seen on the internet. Think of the very worst trolling motherfucking assholes you've ever seen on the internet, and you now have an understanding of what sting operatives are. Okay? They don't give a fuck. They want what they want, and what they want is to target their target, and they want to make their target look as bad as possible, and they want to make their target's life a living hell. And any retaliation you do against them will only backfire on you, and they know it. So they count on you retaliating. Retaliating isn't really going to help. Short of only one thing. Like I said, what do organized, paid by the government, organized by the government sting operatives, what do they fear? Well, let's see. They have lives they want to keep. There's something there. There's something they fear right there. And you know, it's like I said, you know, you need to keep in mind that these people don't give a shit. Their ultimate goal against the people they target is to either murder their target or to frame their target for some sort of a crime. And either way that goes, they want to destroy the name and reputation of their target. So whether they kill their target or whether they frame their target and their target gets incarcerated, either way, they want to destroy their name and reputation. And it's a personal attack. I guarantee it. It's personal. You may not know why they're doing it. I guarantee your government ain't going to tell you why. They might hint at it. They might make it known via hints or something, but they'll never tell you the reason why. It's usually personal, though. I can tell you that right now. It's usually there's a personal reason. In my situation, I already know why I'm targeted, because I was surrounded by neighbors all my life. When I was a kid growing up, I was surrounded by neighbors that were sting operatives, that worked for people in law enforcement. They helped people in law enforcement to frame people and shit, and they just didn't give a shit. I had people like that as neighbors all my life. So I've been around these kind of people all my fucking life, and I know what kind of people they are. They're stuck up. They think they're better than everybody else. They know they'll never be arrested because they know cops will always cover for their ass. If you try to charge a sting operative with a crime, instead of taking your complaint, law enforcement will look at you and smirk, and they'll pretend you're mentally ill. And that's their way of making it known to you that they could care less that you have a complaint and that they're not going to do a damn thing about it. Okay, so they intentionally make it known to their targets that you can't get help. And I know the type of people. I've been around these type of people all my fucking life. They're stuck-up motherfuckers. They love to smirk at people. They enjoy doing this shit to people. You know, you think, gee, that's an awful lot of trouble for them to go through. Why would they spend a couple of years just harassing me in this manner? They committed murders, and I caught their asses in the act on an audio recorder, bragging about all the details and shit of it, and I secured that fucking audio. And they want to cover their asses. And law enforcement has thousands and thousands of people on their fucking payroll that do nothing but target people. So guess what? It may seem like a lot of trouble to normal people, but to people in government, this is nothing. If they're not going to target me, then they'll target somebody else. There are people that literally make a living as sting operatives, civilian sting operatives that work for law enforcement. So if they're not targeting me, they'll be targeting somebody else. Okay? So, yeah. It's not that big a deal to them. You know, a lot of people say, oh, government wouldn't waste taxpayers' dollars on all this kind of shit. I mean, excuse me? What is taxpayers' dollars? Taxpayers' dollars is worthless pieces of paper we all pretend is money that government can print all it wants, any day it wants to. We don't have money. We have a pretend money system in place of which government completely controls and regulates and taxes, and they can print as much of it as they damn well fucking feel like. Is that money? Hell no. That's monopoly money. Our fucking money is nothing but monopoly money, and the government can print as much of it as it wants or take away as much of it as it wants out of circulation. Okay? So money's nothing to the damn government. Nothing. Money is nothing to this government. They own the money. They print the money. They can print as much of it as they want. They don't give a fuck because of it. So money is no object for government. Never has been. Everybody just pretends that it's an issue. It's only an issue for people that try to survive in this fascist country. Because for the fascist country itself, it can print all the money it wants. So it doesn't give a shit. But what this government does have is thousands and thousands and thousands of fucking sting operatives that are more than eager to target people. And they're trained by law enforcement how to target people and how to harass people and how to terrorize people. And they use the same tactics over and over and over again. Most of them are, I tell you right now, most of them are not very bright. Most are pretty fucking stupid. Most are either lunkhead thugs that think they're tough, or they're females that are very much like sluts, and they enjoy doing this shit to people. And they're taught by law enforcement how to harass and terrorize their targets. Some are smarter than others. I'm being targeted by one. He's a retired cop. I think he's either a retired Portland police officer or a retired county sheriff officer. He may be a retired FBI agent for all I know. I don't know, honestly, which. Based on my personal opinion, he's a retired Portland police officer or a retired Multnomah County sheriff officer. He could be retired FBI. I don't know. don't matter. Law enforcement transfers from one agency to the other agencies all the fucking time. So it's just one big fucking system as far as I'm concerned. To me, it's really irrelevant. If they're in law enforcement, then they're a part of it all. Really, they have their hand in all law agencies and take part in all activities that all law agencies, tend to be involved in. I'm being targeted by one that's relatively semi-intelligent. He's an old dude. He's fucking retired. So yeah, they even use retired officers as sting operatives. He was trying to coordinate shit when I first moved into this apartment. The first fucking full year I lived in this apartment, he was trying to coordinate a lot of their staged street theater shit that they were doing out there for video surveillance. They kind of gave up on most of it. For the most part, they gave up on most of it because I wasn't falling for any of it, and he realized that I knew better. I knew better. And he was the only one that seemed to be rather intelligent. The rest of them are either meatheads or fat-ass slobs that are just kiss-ups to law enforcement or grinning, smirking sluts. All of them act like they're better than everybody else, and they carry themselves that way. And they all perform in a manner that is repeated. And they do that because they're staging certain situations for video surveillance. It's like when police have a prostitution sting and they dress up a bunch of females as prostitutes. Well, what are those females going to do? They're going to do the same shit over and over and over again for video surveillance. They'll use the same sentences over and over and over again for video surveillance. They'll use the same come-ons to people on the street over and over and over again. Okay? Because they're performing for video surveillance. And they're trained how to do certain things for video surveillance by law enforcement. So if you pay attention, you notice that they repeat a lot of the things that they do over and over again. And you begin to notice the pattern, and you begin to recognize the pattern. And now, of course, this is nothing new to me. I've never been involved in law enforcement. I've never been involved in sting operations, but I've witnessed them. I've seen sting operations done by people in law enforcement and by their civilian buddies / relatives / their girlfriends and shit. Okay? So I'm aware of this shit. I've seen this kind of crap before. Okay? I'm fully aware of their mentalities. They're stuck-up people. Most of them usually go to church. A lot of them go to Mormon church here in Portland, Oregon. I'm not accusing the Mormon church of criminal activity here. I'm just saying the vast majority of people that I have witnessed as sting operatives tend to be Mormons, churchgoers. Now, I'm not trying to link the two here. I'm just saying based on what I've personally witnessed, okay? What I personally know about these type of people that I've personally been victimized by, all right? I'm not trying to single out the Mormon church or any other church here. I'm not trying to lump them all as religious people or whatever. But from what I've witnessed in my lifetime about these sting operatives, they usually tend to be religious people, tend to be a part of the Mormon church, and they're very stuck up. They think they're better than everybody else. They love to smirk at their targets. They love to look down at and smirk at their targets. And they'll hint at belittling their target. Like if you engage them in conversation and they think you don't know that they're a sting operative and stuff and that they're targeting you, if they think that you don't know this, they'll hint at it to you. They'll imply, they'll make subtle hints, and they smirk while they do this. Okay? It's their way of having fun with their buddies and shit, because the conversation is being recorded by them. So, you know, I'm just trying to give you a little insight as to how these people think and how they operate, and they're very much connected to law enforcement, whether they're in law enforcement or not. People next door here, yes, they are in law enforcement. They're undercover officers. They're essentially the muscle here, waiting in case I act in self-defense. That's what they're worried about. That's really the only thing they're worried about. So they keep the muscle very close. And the rest of the operatives that are surrounding me are civilian operatives. In other words, they're buddies / relatives / their girlfriends and shit like that. And there is one retired cop. He could be a retired FBI, but I seriously doubt it. Based on what little I've spoke with that dude, I mean, I had him pegged right away as a sting operative, because he was immediately using tactics I've witnessed sting operatives use in the past. So he might as well have just admitted to my face he was. Okay, so based on his own actions. As far as I could tell, he was the only one that had any semblance of intelligence. The rest of them are either goon-like muscle thugs, which is what we have next door. Ones down below tend to be a combination of muscle thugs and slutty whores that kiss up to law enforcement. And then we have this fat-ass slob that's next door over here, that he gives me an impression he's either a relative of somebody in law enforcement or a buddy of somebody's law enforcement, but he's not in law enforcement. But he's just here to act as a witness for law enforcement and against me. And then they have a retired cop that's below him, and he was trying to be sort of like the mastermind that was coming up with schemes with the other sting operatives. He was trying to set up a whole bunch of street theater tactic schemes to set me up. Very similar to a prostitution sting or a drug bust sting. You know, all of which is done outside, you know, outdoors, and they do so for the purpose of video surveillance. He was, of course, in their targeting of me, they're not trying to frame me as a druggie or as a John or anything. They're trying to frame me as a pedo because my wife was having an affair with a cop, and my wife turned my daughters against me, and my wife's lover was acting as a double. They decided, since they had my daughters turned against me, they decided, well, gee, let's frame Terry as a pedo. So that's what they concentrated on. And they committed a murder, and they were trying to set me up for that. And I caught their asses in the act, framing me, not only committing the crime, but framing me for it, because I caught them planting evidence in my home. I caught them breaking into my home, and they planted shit in my home. And after that, I caught them on an audio recorder admitting that they were setting me up using a double. So I pretty much have a defense to any accusation in the fucking universe that I could ever fucking think of. So I've already proved law enforcement's a bunch of fucking murderers, and they're a bunch of dicks, and they womanize with people's wives, and they recruit their girlfriends and their buddies into sting operations, and essentially their sting operations is all about them committing crimes, and then they frame their targets to get the blame. And that, in a nutshell, is what they refer to as a sting operation. That's an actual sting operation. Well, they've been constantly trying to stage shit. The first year I moved in here, this old retired cop down there, he was directing these other sting operatives as to how to set me up and stuff like that. Like, for instance, every time, I don't leave this apartment very often. I'm disabled. They debilitated me. I'm partially paralyzed. I don't leave very often. But when I do, the sting operatives come out of their apartments and they deliberately converge at the bottom of the stairs. You know, if I go out the door, I have to walk down this little walkway that's over this way, and there's the top of the stairs, and I would go down the stairs to the ground level, and right down there is where the sting operatives will converge, usually to pose for video surveillance because they want to have video surveillance of them near me, or to engage me in conversation because they want to have video surveillance of them talking to me. And they usually converge right on that spot at the bottom of the stairs as I'm trying to leave this apartment. They don't do this so much when I'm coming back to the apartment. It's usually when I'm leaving. And the reason why is because they want to make it look on their video surveillance, they want to make it look like I'm approaching them. They want it to appear on their video surveillance that they're just down there at the bottom of the stairs, there and doing nothing. And they want their video surveillance to make it look like I'm approaching them. But see, I have no choice. When I leave here, I have to go down the stairs. And they deliberately converge on that spot right at the bottom of the stairs so that they can have video surveillance of what appears to be me approaching them. I'm not trying to approach them at all. I'm just trying to leave this premises because I'm going to the bank to get my SSI and I'm going to the grocery store to get my groceries. But they deliberately converge at the bottom of the stairs. Now, that's what you can refer to it as very limited street theater, where they're not really doing very much, but they do the same thing over and over again because they want video surveillance. And it's all of the female operatives that are doing this. So they try to make their targets look like bad guys. So they try to come up with video surveillance where it looks like their target is approaching females. Now, I'm not trying to approach anybody. I'm just trying to leave this fucking place to go to the bank. But they deliberately place female operatives at the bottom of the stairs that just hang out down there. Some of them will walk past as I'm going down the stairs, or they'll walk towards as I'm going down the stairs. And there are usually one or two females down there that are just like right down there. So they're trying to get video surveillance of me, of what appears to be me approaching females, when in fact I'm not approaching anybody. I'm just trying to leave this place to go grocery shopping and to pick up my SSI at the bank. But see, through their own actions, they can make me look like a bad guy. Now, they're trying to build a case over time. They're fabricating evidence by doing this, and it's a staged routine that they repeat over and over and over again. And it's very obvious to their targets. It's not obvious to bystanders that may witness it. Anybody else that may witness it will not notice a pattern to it. Their targets notice a pattern to it because they repeat the process over and over and over and over again, and you just become blatantly very cognizant and very aware that they're doing it intentionally. But to any other onlookers, they don't notice anything odd or unusual at all. Okay, and that's by design, of course, on their part. If you are being confronted by sting operatives when you leave your home or when you arrive home, do not engage them in conversation. It won't help you at all. Rudely ignore them, walk past them, and go about your business. Do not engage them in conversation. It will not help you at all. They don't care if you're a good guy. They don't care if you're a bad guy. If you believe that you're surrounded by sting operatives and that they're trying to set you up using street theater tactics, do not engage them in conversation. Unless there's only one conversation you should use. Rudely tell them no and then walk off. Other than that, not really worth talking to them. Won't help you at all. If you talk to them, then they'll have video surveillance of you chatting with them. And guess what? They can change the audio on their video surveillance and make it seem like you're saying something else. Now, couldn't they? and they have you on video talking to their operatives, which are more than willing to lie about you under oath. And they don't fear prosecution because they're sting operatives. So don't say anything to them unless you just want to rudely say no and walk off. Either rudely ignore them or rudely tell them no and just walk off. It ain't going to do you any good to talk to these people whatsoever. It won't help at all. It helps them, it won't help you. They always surround their target. They'll always have one or two sting operatives that will try to pretend to be friendly. Don't fall for that. Don't fall for that. Because they actually they have you under illegal video surveillance, so they want to engage you in conversation, because their video surveillance outside would be, guess what, admissible. See? Well, guess what? You're surrounded by if you're surrounded by sting operatives, every single one of them is prepared to lie about you in court. Every single one of them. They will lie about you in court. Now that they have you on video surveillance, talking with them, having conversations and stuff with them, guess what? They're free to lie under oath and say, well, you admitted to this, and you admitted to that, and you admitted to this crime, and you admitted to that crime. See? That's why you don't talk to the son of a bitches. Your best bet is to rudely say fucking nothing. If you feel the freaking urge to say something, then rudely say something briefly, such as no, when they say something to you, and then just walk off. Make it known to them. Just make it known for their video surveillance you don't like them. Make it known to them, and make it known for your video surveillance you don't like them. That way they can't. It makes it they can't prove in court that you and them are on friendly terms, and that you all have conversations with one another. Do not act angry. Do not raise your hand. Do nothing that would make you look dangerous, because they count on that. Okay? Just rudely ignore them and go on about your business, or just rudely tell them no. Be very brief. And, just make it known to them you don't like them and you don't want to talk to them. You want nothing to do with them. If you have a cell phone, I would recommend every time you leave your home or every time you go home, have it recording. So if they try to engage you in conversation, or if they try to use a staged event when you're leaving your home or when you're entering your home, you'll be able to at least document it. You can just hold your cell phone in your hand. Don't aim your cell phone at people. Just hold your cell phone in your hand and just have it recording. Most modern cell phones nowadays usually have built-in cameras, even have built-in audio things and shit in them. So, be prepared to document their street theater tactics, because they usually confront their targets when they leave their apartments or homes, or when they arrive home, one or the other. And I would recommend getting in the habit of keeping your cell phone with you if somebody knocks at your door. Start recording with your cell phone before you even open your door. And whoever's knocking at your door, get them on video. Document the harassment, document the targeting. It won't get you help, but it'll give you peace of mind knowing that you're actually documenting some of what they're doing to you. Okay, you can document some of it. It won't get you help. There's no government agency. I'm sorry, there's no government agency anywhere in this fucking world that takes complaints on sting operatives. There is no fucking agency that gives a shit if 15 or 20 sting operatives decide they want to target an individual. There is not a soul on this fucking planet that takes complaints on it and acts on it. So there's nobody you can call that will help. Attorneys won't help. Attorneys, if you contact attorneys, they will simply either not respond, or they'll tell you they're on vacation for 2 weeks, and they just never call you back. The government's fascist, and nobody cares, and the police are corrupt. The police recruit civilians all the time in their corruption. And the courts are corrupt as a consequence of this. Police organize and recruit civilians into sting operations. Well, police organize and fill up jury pools also the same damn way. So police control the courts the same way that they control their operations. And because of that, they decide the outcome of any and all court trials. So law enforcement just doesn't give a damn if people know, or if people find out they're corrupt, or if people find out that law enforcement is illegally targeting them. They just don't care. There's nobody a person can call that gives a shit. This government's fascist beyond any measure of the word, and the news media is constantly lying to the news media constantly lies to the American people and pretends that we have a democracy and we have freedom and blah 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 blah. Bullshit. We're surrounded by fucking fascism. And this fucking government and their sting operatives and their fucking civilian operatives that are generally tend to be their buddies and girlfriends and their relatives, they gang up on people all the fucking time and frame people and don't give a shit. I mean, they framed O.J. Simpson for a double murder that never even fucking occurred. And this government is so fascist that when O.J. Simpson proved in that double murder trial his innocence by proving that the gloves were not his, what did the fascist government and the fascist news media do? Why they changed the subject to distract all the unthinking American people from the fact that O.J. Simpson just proved his innocence in open criminal court. He just proved his innocence right there. When he proved those gloves weren't his, they don't fit, he proved his fucking innocence right there at that moment. The prosecution's case was utterly destroyed at that point. But guess what? The fascism never stops, and the propaganda never stops. And how did the fascist propagandistic news media cover that up? Why, they changed the subject. They pretended from that point forward, oh, it's a race issue. It's a race issue. This whole thing was a race issue. And why are they trying to give everybody that impression? Because they're trying to cover up the fact that the L.A. police was framing O.J. Simpson for a bullshit double murder. I got news for you. Ron Goldman and Nicole Simpson are sting operatives. They're still alive. They're not dead. Police agencies all over this fucking country stage deaths all the fucking time in order to frame and entrap people. Okay? So law enforcement staging deaths using civilians is common practice in this fucking country. And Nicole Simpson was O.J. Simpson's wife, and she was having an affair with a sting operative named Ron Goldman. So law enforcement recruited Nicole Simpson into a sting against O.J. Simpson. And they spent several months framing O.J. Simpson and building a case against O.J. Simpson and surrounding him with sting operatives. And law enforcement was directing Nicole Simpson the entire time as to how to set up O.J. Now, their deaths are not real. Their deaths were staged by the L.A. police. They're just given new identities, and then the LA police and the LA coroner's office and the LA prosecutors, they just pretend on paperwork that there was a death, that they died. And then they just charge O.J. Simpson. Guess what? Here's a little bit of tidbit news about that double so-called murder that news media doesn't want people to know about. They were using a double of O.J. Simpson around the time of those so-called double murders. You can Google it, look it up. There's not very much about it on the internet, but it's out there. They even had pictures of it, of the double that the L.A. police was using, and they took it off the internet when I pointed it out to people. Gee, they seem to be a little worried about that. I'm surprised that Big Bad Gov wanted to remove photos of doubles that they were using of O.J. Simpson around the time that the so-called double murders took place. I wonder why they would take that down after I point this fact out to people. Because they did. They took off the photo. The news story about it's still on the internet, but the photos of the double the L.A. police was using of O.J. Simpson, that they took off the internet. What a surprise. Gee, you don't suppose I'm on to something here? I already know. I knew. I've got their ass. I got a shit ton of cops here in Portland, Oregon, admitting they use doubles and photogenic photos all the fucking time. So I already know they use doubles and shit. And I already know they recruit women into fairs and that they recruit those women into sting operations, which is how I know Nicole Simpson was a sting operative. She was a housewife. She was the housewife to O.J. Simpson until she was recruited into a sting. When they recruited her into a sting, from that point forward, she is a sting operative. Regardless of what job she has, she's a sting operative. And from that point forward, she works for and is loyal to law enforcement. And law enforcement takes care of their sting operatives. They even give their sting operatives new identities to hide them, especially when they're staging deaths or when they're using doubles and shit. They try to hide that fact. So, you know, they'll give the FBI, everybody's heard of the Witness Protection Program. Well, law enforcement deems all their sting operatives to be witnesses, so they're the ones that get the benefit of new identities and new places to live and new jobs and get to start all new lives all over again. It's those kind of people that are protected from prosecution. They hide their sting operatives via the Witness Protection Program, which is how they hid Ron Goldman and Nicole Simpson. They're still alive. I know Ron Goldman's in law enforcement, whether they admit to it or not. I don't give a shit. I already know he is. He's in law enforcement. They just don't want to admit that he is. But I already know he is. Nicole Simpson wasn't in law enforcement, but she was recruited as a civilian sting operative. They won her over when they recruited her into an affair. Law enforcement usually turns, when law enforcement targets somebody that's married, they always try to recruit that person's spouse into it. And they usually do so through an affair. They'll start an affair with, you know, they wined and dined Nicole Simpson and shit. You know, they spent a lot of time and effort winning her over, you know, and at the same time they were probably fucking over O.J. Simpson and stuff while they were trying to win her over. And once they won her over, you know, it was just a matter of getting her on board with their operation. And when she agreed, from that point forward, they concentrated on surrounding O.J. with operatives and staging fights and staging arguments and staging shit. And the whole time, the LA police was using a double of O.J. Simpson. Guess what? O.J. Simpson wasn't driving that white Ford Bronco with that big-ass police chase. LA police had a double driving that white Ford Bronco. O.J. Simpson's best friend. And LA police already admitted that they have repeatedly used O.J. Simpson's best